Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Podcast with Neeraj. I'm your host, Neeraj, and today we have a truly inspiring guest joining us from Canada. Please welcome Emma Wilson, a young entrepreneur whose business almost failed before one unexpected conversation completely changed her future. Sometimes we believe success comes from money, experience, or luck, but today's story proves that a single conversation with the right person can completely transform your career and your mindset. Throughout this episode, you'll also learn useful English expressions related to business, communication, confidence, and professional life. Whether you're preparing for job interviews, dreaming of starting your own business, or simply improving your English, this conversation will give you valuable lessons. Emma, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to hear your incredible journey and learn from your experiences.
Thank you so much, Neeraj. It's wonderful to be here. My story began 3 years ago when I launched a small digital marketing startup. I believed I had a great idea, but reality was much harder than I expected. Clients were leaving, expenses kept increasing, and I was seriously thinking about closing the company. Every morning, I questioned whether I had made the biggest mistake of my life. One weekend, I attended a business networking event with almost no expectations. I was standing alone, holding a cup of coffee, when a stranger started a simple conversation with me. He asked about my business, listened carefully, and then shared one piece of advice that completely changed my perspective. It wasn't complicated or expensive. It simply helped me understand what my customers actually needed instead of what I thought they wanted. That conversation became the turning point of my career.
Emma, that's an incredible beginning. I think many people listening can relate to that feeling of self-doubt. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to believe we failed. But your story reminds us that difficult moments don't always mean the journey is over. Sometimes they prepare us for the advice we're ready to hear. I'm curious about that stranger. Did you know who he was? Was he an experienced entrepreneur, a business coach, or simply someone with practical wisdom? Also, after listening to his advice, did you believe it immediately, or were you still unsure? I think many viewers struggle with accepting feedback because they become emotionally attached to their own ideas. Understanding how you trusted a complete stranger could help them become more open-minded. Please tell us what happened next and how that conversation began changing your business step by step.
That's a great question, Neeraj. At first, I had no idea who he was. He introduced himself as David, a retired entrepreneur who had built and sold several successful companies. What impressed me wasn't his success, but the way he listened. He didn't interrupt or criticize me. Instead, he asked thoughtful questions about my customers, my services, and my goals. After hearing my answers, he smiled and said, "Emma, stop trying to impress everyone. Start solving one real problem exceptionally well." That single sentence stayed in my mind all night. The next Monday, I met with my small team, and we decided to focus on one specific service instead of offering everything. Within a few months, our customer satisfaction improved, referrals increased, and new clients started coming naturally. Looking back, I realized that clarity was far more valuable than trying to do everything at once.
Emma, I really love that advice because it applies to more than just business. Many English learners make the same mistake. They try to learn everything at once: grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, idioms, and advanced expressions. Eventually, they become overwhelmed and lose motivation. Your story reminds us that real progress begins when we focus on one goal at a time. I also noticed something else. You were willing to listen instead of defending your original idea. That's a quality every successful person seems to have. For our viewers, today's useful business expression is customer feedback. Customer feedback means the opinions and suggestions that customers share about a product or service. Listening to feedback helps businesses improve. Emma, after changing your strategy, what was the first positive result that made you believe your company was finally moving in the right direction?
The first positive sign was surprisingly simple, Neeraj. One of our earliest clients sent us an email saying, "Your team finally understands exactly what my business needs." That message meant more to me than earning money, because it showed we were creating real value. Soon after that, the same client recommended us to 2 other companies. We didn't spend thousands of dollars on advertising. Instead, satisfied customers became our best marketing team. That experience taught me another important lesson. Trust is built through consistency. If you deliver quality work every time, people naturally recommend you to others. The same idea applies to learning English. Practice a little every day instead of studying only once in a while. Small improvements create big results over time. Success doesn't happen overnight. It grows through patience, consistency, and the courage to keep learning, even when progress feels slow.
Emma, your story proves that success isn't always about working harder. It can also be about working smarter. Many people think business growth depends only on money, but your experience shows that understanding people is even more valuable. I also believe this applies to English learning. Instead of memorizing hundreds of words every week, it's better to learn vocabulary that you can actually use in daily conversations. Today's useful phrase is think outside the box. It means to find creative solutions instead of following the usual way of doing things. Emma, after your business started growing again, did you ever meet David, the stranger, for a second time? Were you able to thank him personally? I imagine many viewers are wondering whether he knew how much his advice changed your life and your career.
Yes, I did, Neeraj. About 8 months later, I attended the same business networking event where we had first met. I was hoping to see him again, and fortunately, he was there. This time, I walked over with a smile and thanked him for his advice. He looked genuinely happy, but then he surprised me again. He said, "Emma, I didn't change your business. You changed it because you took action." Those words stayed with me forever. Advice is valuable, but it only creates results when someone is willing to apply it. Since then, I've tried to help young entrepreneurs the same way David helped me. Whenever I meet someone who feels discouraged, I remind them that one good decision today can completely change tomorrow. Success grows through action, consistency, and learning from every experience.
That's an incredible lesson, Emma. Sometimes we spend too much time searching for the perfect opportunity while ignoring the opportunities already in front of us. Your journey teaches us that progress begins when we decide to act instead of waiting. I'd also like to share a useful business word with our listeners: networking. Networking means building professional relationships with people who can share knowledge, opportunities, and ideas. Networking isn't about collecting business cards. It's about creating meaningful connections based on trust and respect. Whether you're learning English or building a career, conversations matter. Every new person you meet has a different experience that can teach you something valuable. Emma, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who wants to start a business but feels afraid of failing, what would you tell them?
My advice is simple, Neeraj. Don't wait until you feel fearless, because that day may never come. Every successful entrepreneur I've met has experienced fear, uncertainty, and failure. The difference is that they didn't allow those feelings to stop them. Start with what you have today. Learn continuously, improve your skills, and accept that mistakes are part of the journey. Celebrate small victories because they build confidence for bigger challenges. If you're learning English, don't be afraid to speak with an accent or make grammatical mistakes. Every conversation improves your ability to communicate. If you're building a business, focus on solving real problems instead of chasing quick success. People remember businesses that genuinely help them. Finally, always stay curious, keep asking questions, and never stop learning. Growth belongs to those who continue moving forward, even when the path isn't perfect.
Emma, one thing I truly admire is that you never allowed one difficult season to define your future. Many people quit just before things begin to improve. Your journey reminds us that persistence is often the difference between giving up and succeeding. I'd like to introduce another useful English expression: step out of your comfort zone. This means trying something new, even if it feels uncomfortable or challenging. Whether you're starting a business, attending a networking event, or practicing English with strangers, growth begins outside your comfort zone. I remember feeling nervous before recording my first podcast episode, but every new episode helped me become more confident. Emma, was there a moment when you finally realized, my business is no longer struggling, it's actually growing?
I remember that day very clearly, Neeraj. One Monday morning, I opened my email and saw 3 new client inquiries waiting for me. The amazing part was that none of them came through advertising. Every one of those clients had been recommended by someone we had already worked with. At that moment, I realized that trust had become our greatest strength. We weren't just selling a service anymore. We were building long-term relationships. That day taught me another valuable lesson. People recommend businesses that solve problems honestly and consistently. Success isn't always measured by how much money you earn. It's also measured by the positive impact you create for others. From then on, our team focused on quality instead of quantity. We listened more carefully, communicated more clearly, and continued improving every project. Those simple habits helped our company grow steadily year after year.
That's such an important lesson, Emma. Many people chase quick success, but lasting success is usually built through trust, patience, and consistency. I think the same principle applies to learning English. If you practice for just 20 minutes every day, you'll make much more progress than studying for hours only once a month. Today's useful vocabulary word is opportunity. An opportunity is a chance to achieve something positive or valuable. Opportunities often arrive unexpectedly, but we must be prepared to recognize them. Your conversation with David became an opportunity because you listened with an open mind and took action afterward. I'd like to ask one final personal question before we wrap up. Looking back at the younger Emma who felt ready to quit, what would you say to her today if you had the chance?
I would tell her, don't be so hard on yourself. Every entrepreneur faces moments of doubt, and every dream goes through difficult seasons. Failure doesn't mean you're not capable. It simply means you're still learning. I would remind my younger self that success isn't about never making mistakes. It's about learning from them and continuing to move forward. I'd also say, trust the process, believe in your abilities, and never stop asking questions. The conversation with David changed my business, but the decision to keep going was completely my own. That's something every listener should remember. Advice can guide you, but only your actions create results. If today's conversation inspires even one person to keep learning English, start a business, or chase a dream they almost gave up on, then sharing my story has been worth it.
Emma, thank you for being so honest with us. I think one reason your story is inspiring is because it doesn't describe an overnight success. It shows the importance of patience, learning, and making better decisions every day. I'd like to introduce today's useful English phrase, learn from experience. This means using past successes and mistakes to make better choices in the future. Many people avoid failure because they're afraid of making mistakes, but every successful entrepreneur has learned valuable lessons through experience. I also believe that every conversation teaches us something new if we listen carefully. Emma, during your journey, did you ever mentor someone who reminded you of your younger self? I'm curious to know whether you had the opportunity to pass David's advice on to someone else and help another entrepreneur begin their own success story.
Neeraj, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences of my career. About a year after my company became stable, a young university student contacted me. She wanted to start a small online business but felt completely overwhelmed. I remembered how confused I had once been, so instead of giving her a long lecture, I asked questions and listened carefully, just as David had done for me. Together, we identified one problem she could solve well and created a simple plan. 6 months later, she proudly shared that she had gained her first loyal customers. Seeing her confidence grow reminded me that knowledge becomes more valuable when we share it. Success isn't only about reaching your own goals. It's also about helping others discover their potential. That experience inspired me to mentor more young entrepreneurs whenever I had the opportunity.
That's truly inspiring, Emma. It shows that success creates a ripple effect. One person's kindness can inspire another, who then inspires someone else. Today's useful vocabulary word is mentor. A mentor is an experienced person who guides, supports, and encourages someone who wants to learn or improve. Every successful professional, athlete, or entrepreneur has learned from someone at some point. The same is true for English learners. A teacher, a friend, or even a podcast can become a mentor by sharing useful knowledge and encouragement. I hope our listeners understand that asking for guidance is a strength, not a weakness. Emma, before we end today's episode, I'd like you to share one final message for everyone watching around the world, especially those who feel they're not good enough to achieve their dreams or speak English confidently.
Thank you, Neeraj. My final message is this: never let fear make decisions for your future. There will always be challenges, unexpected setbacks, and moments when you question yourself. That's completely normal. What matters is choosing to keep moving forward, even if your steps are small. Don't compare your beginning with someone else's success. Focus on becoming a little better every single day. If you're learning English, speak even when you're nervous. If you're starting a business, begin with the resources you have today. Confidence doesn't appear before action, it grows because of action. Stay curious, keep learning, and surround yourself with people who encourage your growth. Most importantly, remember that one conversation can open a door you never expected. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it inspires you to believe in yourself and never stop chasing your dreams.
Emma, thank you for sharing such an honest and inspiring journey. Today's conversation has taught us that success is rarely the result of one big decision. Instead, it's built through small, consistent actions, meaningful conversations, and the courage to keep moving forward. We also learned several useful English words and expressions, including customer feedback, networking, opportunity, mentor, and step out of your comfort zone. I encourage everyone watching to practice using these phrases in your own conversations. Don't just memorize them, make them part of your daily English. Whether you're preparing for a job interview, starting a business, or simply improving your communication skills, remember that confidence grows through practice. Emma, before we end this episode, I'd like to ask one final question. If you could leave our audience with one sentence that they should remember for the rest of their lives, what would it be?
Thank you, Neeraj. It's been a pleasure sharing my story with everyone. If I could leave your audience with one sentence, it would be this: your future is shaped by the conversations you're brave enough to start today. Never underestimate the power of introducing yourself, asking a question, or listening carefully to someone else's experience. Those simple moments can create opportunities you never imagined. Continue learning, continue improving, and never stop believing that your next conversation could change your life. Whether your dream is to speak English fluently, build a successful business, study abroad, or discover a new career, remember that every expert was once a beginner. Be patient with yourself, celebrate every small achievement, and keep moving forward with confidence. Thank you, Neeraj, for inviting me, and thank you to everyone watching Podcast with Neeraj. I wish you success, happiness, and the courage to create your own inspiring story. Until next time, keep way.